Hello, everyone, and welcome to a conversation with Port Saga here on twitch.tv/live action roleplay. So let's get started with introducing everyone here. I'm going to start off with the creator of Port Saga, Rachel J. Wilkinson. Say hi, Rachel.
Hi, how are you? How is everybody?
So,
Good.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I should have said. So let's have you talk about who you are in relation to this
Oh, you don't
project.
actually know who I am. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and what voice you play.
well, hi, I am Rachel, and I am a writer, and I am a primarily a speculative fiction writer, but I also do a ton of game writing. So I do Vampire the Masquerade writing, and I also do Dune: Adventures in the Imperium. I have not gotten to see the movie yet, but I'm going on tomorrow. So I will finally get to see the movie. I've had to avoid Facebook for a week. It's driving me crazy. Uh, yeah. So did I cover everything?
Yeah. Yeah, you're good.
Excellent.
Because we're going to learn more about you and everyone else during the interview. Next, we're going to go to Dan. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan. Yeah, so sorry. So I'm actually married to Rachel. I'm in a separate room here. I am a professional actor. I teach theater up at Sam Houston State University, and I play Titus. Yeah. Not for nothing, but I got into World of Darkness Vampire back in the 90s in Fairbanks, Alaska, and small little games, even in the collective freezing north, and from there just moved to New York and started LARPing and doing my Bind High Society, and so yeah, I've been a vampire fan for quite some time.
Yeah, that's what I forgot. I forgot to tell people I played Marlowe, but that's only because I come cheap. So I want to recast myself. I want to recast myself badly, but
Oh my goodness. Next, we're going to go to Andrew. Say hi, Andrew.
What's up, everybody? I'm Andrew J. Alandi. I play Primogen Dante Mendoza on Vampire the Masquerade Port Saga. I'm a host and actor, a streamer as well. My Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Duralath. I'm also a cosplayer and a competitive gamer. I am one of the lead voices for Street Fighter 3 Third Strike's premier tournament series, the Jazzy Circuit. And above all, I'm just excited to see everybody here and just have a great time.
All right. Next, we're going to go to Riley. Say hi, Riley.
Hello, everybody. I'm Riley Silverman. I play Primogen Zelda. Like Dan, I also have Vampire and World of Darkness experience going back to the 90s. It's my first role-playing game that I got into. I played a lot more Werewolf than I did Vampire, but I definitely played a little bit of Vampire. Definitely had some young, misunderstanding teenager ideas about what a Macavian should be like. And then I kind of moved into Toreadors as I got a little older and became my gothy art school kid type person that I was. Played through a lot of LARPs of Vampire, the Requiem, which is like the sort of post World of Darkness that they brought back. It's a whole thing. But yeah, I played in that as well, and yeah, I know a lot of online role playing, a lot of D&D and other games as well, and so this was super fun to do a little spreading of my wings here.
All right. Thanks, Riley. Last but not least, we say hi to Ducky. Say hi, Ducky.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ducky. I'm from the greater New Orleans area. I am also a writer, more classically focused on poetry. Voice acting has only recently become a part of my life, and I'm mostly just like a peddler of random facts about Southeast Louisiana. There is a 90% chance that if there's some random person that talks to you on the streetcar, it's probably me right before I disappear into the New Orleans night. I've known Rachel and Dan for like almost like 8-10 years at this point, like a long time. I've been playing World of Darkness games since I was 15 years old. The very first role-playing book I bought was actually Changeling the Dreaming second edition. I fell in love with that, but I've played almost every classic World of Darkness game, and despite the fact that I play the very fabulous Lysander Valentine, Ducky does not like Clan Toreador at all.
Wow.
I knew this too. I knew this.
Wow, we're gonna get into that shade later. So I am your host, Ryan Omega, he, him. I play Ezra Knox, the Malkavian Primogen. I have been involved with Vampire LARP since 2000. I have been at one point the head storyteller for the San Francisco Chronicle for One World by Night, including running convention games out there. I helped Kenny Lowell found the Los Angeles chapter, La Sangra. And I have been involved with Vampire in some capacity, like on and off. I was on the V20 Kickstarter with Jason Carl like 5 years ago when they were filming on the Queen Mary. And there's like one vampire that's just strolling by, giving the camera attitude, like, and then walking by and whispering to someone, "That was me." And I even have like I'm so into Vampire that like I actually have an Ankh tattoo on my shoulder. I'm one of those guys. There's a long story behind that. Anyways, so while we're here, we're going to just have a casual conversation as much as we can have, just asking about the whole process. We have a few questions. If you have questions from the audience, please let us know and we'll answer them. For our creator, Rachel, or for any of our voice actors, and we're just going to go. So I guess the first question is going to come from me. So Rachel, how did you come up with this?
Yeah, so I started out podcasting in nonfiction. So I created a nonfiction podcast called Life Fancy, and I was learning the tools of the trade as far as mics and editing and all of this kind of stuff. And then Ducky was working on a audio drama, and I kept saying to him, "If you need help on this, I'm a writer. You know a writer. You know." And he's like, "Rachel, you've told me this 6 times. I know that you're interested. When I'm doing this, I'll let you." But the thing that happened was I became so voraciously envious. I was just like, he's writing one. I wanted into what he was doing, because I was sitting here saying, well, I don't know if I really know how to do that yet. I'm not sure about my own skills, confidence issues, all of those things. It took, what was that, like, that was October of last year, I want to say, Ducky. That was when we did it. He came and was a guest on Life Fancy talking about his ghost tour history down in New Orleans. And this is when he brought it up. And so I kept saying it. Well, this idea kept eating at me. And I finally looked at Dan and I said, Dan, I gotta make an audio drama. This has got to happen. So I went into Dan's office where you see him now, and I sat on the floor and I said, what is the audio drama going to be about? And I said, I know a bunch of vampire shit. We should probably do something with vampires. And what you can't see is right next to, like, right across the way. Maybe he'll move his camera. Can you move your camera? Yes. There is the shelf. My head was right next to the vampire books. And I'm sitting here saying, you think we could do vampires? Vampires would work, but who's gonna listen to random vampires? And then we both just went. And yes, and so when you see that whole shelf of books, and fortunately, World of Darkness and Vampire the Masquerade has this great ability to be able to make fan content, and so that is the moment that I decided we were going to self-produce this indie project and make an audio drama. I was a sweet summer child. I was innocent and naive and had no idea. I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this in 3 months, and it's going to be great. And yeah, so that's been an adventure, and I am now educated. And if you had told me now what it was going to be, I'd have been like, oh shit, no. But now I'm in it, and I've discovered that I loved it, and so I am very, very happy.
Nice. So I guess another question, or unless anyone else here has questions.
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. So I guess a big question, I think this does come from, I guess, Tom Clambro. Um, and that question is, why music? Why is that? I understand the Port Saga story aspect, but I'm asking you, why did you choose it? And referencing that in this podcast, in order to show Titus Reed's Malkavian madness, it's done through music. So, can you talk a little bit more about why that particular process, and also how did you get that? How did you get that onto the podcast to make it sound like the way it does?
So, yeah, okay. So, uh, uh, first of all, hi Tom, you are a patron, and so therefore, I'm going to express my gratitude to you for helping me create this thing. Please become a patron. So,
Hashtag not a shameless plug.
no, not at all, not at all.
Become a patron
So-
and we'll owe you a boon.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So I'm a LARPer. That is my dark secret. I'm a vampire LARPer, and I have been since 2006. And I have played either Toreador or Ventru mostly. Toreador, because it's Toreador. I like to throw parties and stuff like that, and so Toreador really fit. And then Ventru, because I like to be in charge. So I didn't want anybody having to tell me what to do. So I just sort of played Ventru and made sure I was always, telling everybody else what to do instead. And then I played a Nosferatu, and I love this Nosferatu. But my next idea was to play a Malkavian. And I had this Malkavian brewing in my head for a while. And then I ended up, pandemic hit, and lots of other things happened, and I have since kind of left Vampire LARP, got busy with other things. So I knew I wanted to do Malkavian, because one of the things that I think is so unfortunate is there is not a ton of media for Malkavians. You're always going to get La Sombra, Toreador, Ventru. You're going to get, something for those characters. They're also the most relatable to the audience, I think, which is part of the reason. Malkavians are very, very difficult because Malkavians just have a lot of social stigma.
Mhm.
It's like they're crazy.
Mhm.
And so you get these weird versions, I shouldn't call them weird, these interesting interpretations of what that should be.
I love that
And
word.
Yeah, that's what I meant earlier. When I said
Interesting.
when I was a kid, I played questionable choices about what a Malkavian looks like. Because when you're a teenager, you're like, oh, they're all crazy, and you don't really know how to express that in a way that's not be horrible.
offensive. Yes. Yeah, just offensive.
Yeah,
right?
very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, and naively so. It's not like anybody is doing
Yeah.
it purposefully.
Mhm.
And so, but you would hear about fish milks and teddy bears and all this kind of stuff. And so, but the thing about Malkavian, what makes Malkavians so interesting to me, is that their insight actually provides this different way of seeing something, whether it's greater insight or nuanced creativity, or it gives them an entirely different perspective. But they have trouble communicating what that is, and you have this communication gap that is the core of the Malkavian, which is you have the Malkavian mind that is experiencing the world in a very different way, but they can't tell anybody. And I actually feel like I'm just doing this right now because I'm trying to make this point. I can't get the words out. So yeah, I just made me. No, I'm joke, kidding. But I had this idea for this character, and I always thought about how you could do that, how you could bring in this idea of hearing a room, kind of like a synesthesia kind of thing. And if you could hear a room, what would that room say? And then when we were talking about it, I admittedly, I walked right over to Dayan's office, and I'm just like, I'm a genius. because then so you have an audio based medium, and I wanted to do something specifically that lent itself to the audio based medium. You can't do this in any other form. So I just wanted to celebrate what it was to have an entire immersive sound experience, along with doing justice, what I feel like should be doing justice to Malkavians, which are often misunderstood. All right.
So I'm just going to chime in here real quick. When Rachel and I were first sort of we weren't dating. She was married and I was with someone else, and I was in.
God, we just went to a place.
Wow.
Okay.
Don't like this. Don't like this.
Wow.
So I was in New York, and she was in Illinois, and we were like getting to know each other. We were both LARPers. It's sort of how we knew each other. And she would create mixtapes and mail them. And there's like 10 of them. And they're methodically chosen. Like there is a level of detail. Like it's not like she was like, I'm gonna put my 10 favorite songs on this thing and just mail it to you. Oh no. There was like she would tell me once it took her like 6 hours to make this. And of course I'm just a dude like, I'd do it in 6 minutes. Like so Rachel has always had this really great ear for music, and it's because she grew up playing the piano. And I think she has a fantastic ear for it. So every single song on one of an episode of Port Saga is deliberately chosen. I have to sort of like look for the lyrics because they're always saying something. And so now it's to the point where Titus will get angry in the middle of the scene and suddenly rock and roll happens in the background, and then it kind of fades down a little bit. Every time he's talking about Lawrence, it gets slower and a little more sad. Like there's a level of detail that has always been there when it comes to music, when it comes to Rachel, and it is sort of a beautiful thing to see it sort of displayed for everyone to see.
And if anybody is curious, I actually have a thing I can kind of share. If you would like to see how I pick music, I don't know if you can see this, but there are pages and pages.
Oh, that's awesome.
And pages and pages. This is how I do. It's a calendar. It's a week calendar, and then I go through songs and I write notes on each one of them. But there are lists. I'm a paper and pen kind of girl, so. Yes, but that is, if you want to know what, behind the scenes look at how music gets made, it's me doing this.
How very Malkavian of you.
I know, I was just like, I just create myself. Don't mind me. Nothing to see here.
I'm gonna quickly go to like everyone else here. So I'm gonna start off with Dan. So when you got the role of Titus, right? Is there any particular inspiration in terms of like what you're thinking of whenever you're playing a character like that? Because the character itself is it's weird. Like he's very like almost like iconically a detective, relatable, and yet there's something just slightly off as a Malkavian would be.
Yeah, no. So when Rachel and I were talking about this and talking about creating Titus and sort of what he was going to be, and we wanted, like, she was like, this is going to be a murder mystery, and so she was doing all this research on mysteries and stuff like that, and so it immediately had a bit of a Blade Runner vibe, and with the rain, and I picture a coat for sure, and also just like with the original Blade Runner, Titus kind of gets his ass kicked a lot, right? Which I really sort of enjoyed because. Normally when you're LARPing, you're playing these really kind of badass characters, or you're watching a vampire movie and it's Selena with her fucking twin guns, like, blowing everyone away. And it was really kind of nice to finally sort of play someone who thought that they were a bit of a badass, but is really sort of at the bottom of the pecking order, and who's just sort of trying to make it through the night. Who's got like Moonlight Bay on one side, and no one likes him in Port Saga, and he's a little emo. he's got a lot of feels.
No. No, really? No.
We're talking about Titus
think
from
any
Port
of us
Saga.
Right.
About Titus.
Just a little.
We're talking about Port Saga right now.
Yeah, just a
Are you
little.
thinking about a different show?
But I sort of feel like it had to be like he it's an exploration of sort of his inner brain, right? and I dig it. I really do. Like Rachel watched. So in our household, Rachel watches all the CW shows. I'm less a fan, but she loves it. And so the CW gets to come out a little bit here where it's all dramatic and everyone's having such great feels. Like I'm more of a Wire guy. Like I like some gritty realism. But no, this is sort of a lovely, perfect blend. And I dig the detective noir vibe for sure. And that's sort of, I think, where Titus sort of started. And every time that I would try to be like more of a badass, Rachel would be like, no, he's not that character. Reel it back. Reel it back.
Let's go to Andrew. So, what were your inspirations going into playing Primogen Dante Mendoza?
Okay, so for Dante, when I first got my hands on the script, I think I was first able to read the script at I think 10 at night or something when I was at home, and it was just winding down, and immediately from reading the first few episodes that I was in, and I don't know if this was the influence of what I had been watching in the previous few days, but immediately my first thoughts of mine was, okay, I feel like Captain Holt when I'm reading these words to myself right now. Captain Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's very, he's very prim and proper, and everything is by the book and very, very, very ornate, very, very, very well kept. And I thought to myself, well, what if I went that route with the role? And then I realized there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to replicate Andre Braugher's voice at all, because that deep basso profundo, for lack of a better term, was not something I can do. But as I got to work with Rachel on this and through our guidance, I started to see where I could fit that in, and also fit in the other influence that I started to see as we worked with this, which was Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and seeing that teacher, that mentor, the kind of marrying those two for me and giving it a little bit of my own flair. That's kind of what I felt when I was reading all those lines, and that's really what inspired me. And now that I know, hearing Dane's comment about the CW, it totally makes sense now, and I cannot unhear it. Like,
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. No, I'm okay. I'm a huge fan of the CW as well.
Okay, awesome.
I watched a lot of Supernatural and a lot of Arrow and a lot of Flash. So like every Thursday when the episode drops, like every Thursday morning, that's my morning commute. Like Thursday morning before I'm going to work, I'm listening to that. It's like it's on in the car, and I'm hearing the mood set every time. And I mean, like after every episode, I'm just like, oh god, like I'm like excited for all of it. But so all these influences just marrying together, it really. It was just amazing, and getting to again live that sort of upright teacher fantasy that I guess younger Andrew may have had in the past, now coming to life was fun.
All right, I'm going to go to Riley. The same question. What were your inspirations into playing Primogen Zelda of the Nosferatu?
Yeah, I think similar to Andrew, I kind of came in with an idea that I then, with working with Rachel during the recording, we really changed it a lot. And I think it was really interesting where we went with it, because I knew she was like a more cunning and sort of like manipulative character, and so I kind of based her a lot on a character I'd actually previously played in D&D, who was like a spy, and kind of in a show that you were on one time, Ryan. I kind of was coming in with very Velma Sweet in my mind.
Okay.
And very like femme fatale, and there is definitely still a lot of that in there, but I was playing her a little bit more sinister. And Rachel gave me the really good note of like, everyone's a vampire. so everyone's playing it sinister, and so if everyone's baseline is sinister, there's nowhere to like play with that. So Rachel had me like raise my octave a little bit, and we got to a much more fun place with her where she's a lot more playful, and it's almost like a cat batting a mouse around and having fun with it. And it was really fun to play, and it took me out of my comfort zone a little bit, but I was glad where we went with it. I think, and it's hard for me to say too much because you haven't really heard a lot of what we're talking about yet. Like I've only really had like one major scene as Zelda in what's aired so far, and I would say that was my most challenging scene, I think, because I'm someone who plays really well off of other performers. And so for voiceover, that can be tough sometimes because you are usually recording your tracks isolated. But the blessing was that there are two big Zelda things, especially coming up, that I'm very excited for the audience to hear. And by virtue of the fact that Dayan lives with Rachel and was there giving me the scratch tracks while we recorded, I'm really excited to hear what comes out of those scenes, because it was almost like I was performing opposite Titus in those scenes, and it's really exciting. So yeah, I think there's something about Zelda which is very interesting to me in the way she's written, is that she wears a veil, but I think she has a veil to her where she plays very playful and polite, but then every once in a while, like every few lines or at the right moment, she lifts that veil and there's just a little bit of sinister. And you kind of heard it a little bit in episode 3 when she has that comment of the whole my fault entirely, and it's such a oh, you caught me in my trap, but you're not smart enough to get me in it. I've gotten out of it already. There was something a level of that to it. So yeah, she's very fancy. I had a very mid-Atlantic accent definitely in my head with her. And yeah, it's just really fun to see where she goes. And I think I'm really excited to hear the scenes that I have with Titus, because I think those were, they were fun to record. And I know we were kind of anxious going into them. And I remember, to toot my own horn, my excitement, since Rachel called herself a genius, and she's right, I'm going to say this. I have a big block of text coming up at one point that we were basically setting aside the entire recording session to make sure that we had it. And then we did it. And then Rachel goes, so we did it. We got it. We did I think 2 takes of it. And then Rachel was like, we got it. And we had another half hour of what we had planned to record timing wise. And she's like, yeah, I think we're good on it. She's like, do you want to just try it different ways and just see if we have other take? So then we just kind of did 3 or 4 fun run throughs of it with different aspects. But that was a really good feeling to have Rachel go, yeah, we're good. It was really because I was definitely thinking we were going to be really going through the trenches on it. But I think once Dane and I were just playing off each other, I think it just came out naturally.
Can I cut in just real briefly, because there's a couple of things I want to say specifically about Zelda, and because you're here watching this live stream, you're going to be the only folks that know, but everyone in the drama, there's sound effects all the time. People walking, people shuffling papers, people taking drinks. The only one that doesn't have it, Zelda. You will never hear Zelda. And that is an aspect that I get really excited about, because she's a Nosferatu. A Nosferatu, you aren't going to hear her footsteps. What? Is she going to rattle a drink around? No. So I wanted to bring obfuscation and that power of obfuscation into the audio side of it. And I also just finished episode 6, the one we're sort of talking about, with one of her first big scene. And we're geniuses. Let's just put it this way.
I will say that I was extremely well directed. So when I said I was proud of that, I was proud that I was able to give you what you wanted. So because I could tell you had such a clear vision for who this character was, and so it was really great to be able to feel we were on the same page with that.
Oh yeah, and Dayan got to hear the rough cut last night, so he was pretty excited about it. I'm pretty excited about it. I think I told you this. I think episode 6 is giving episode 3 a run for its money. I can't tell right now. Episode 3, favorite episode. 6 though, 6 got me. So you'll have to wait a couple of days though.
I'm excited. Well, I think we can say that 3, part of what made 3 so amazing was Lysander Valentine. I mean,
Oh.
Yes, great segue.
Yeah, nice
Well played.
segue. So, Ducky, like, talk to us about what were your inspirations for Lysander. I want to hear this.
So, first of all, I want to start with the fact that Rachel approached me and was like, I want you to be in my audio drama. I have this character named Lysander Valentine. And I go, that's really funny. I played a Malkavian named Lysander. So I feel like this is the right fit. Now, usually when I do audio recordings, I either talk with my deep voice, or like when I answer the phone at the hotel, I say, "It's a heavenly day at the Saint Hotel. This is Ducky speaking. How may I assist you?" And just really give people like that panty tightening like motion going on. But she wanted something that like really kind of sounded like a New Orleanian. And when I read the script, and the funniest thing is like I'm reading it, and Rachel told me, Dane was like, "Hey, Rachel, you keep putting gone instead of gonna." And she's like, no. You're going to have to wait to hear Ducky read it. And I mean, the first time I see, like, we're not going to do that, I was like, every sassy bisexual New Orleanian came out in me. And I was like, I found Lysander Valentine. He going to talk like this. The only thing I added was a bunch of babies, bitches, and motherfuckers. Because let me say, people down here, we drop those words like nobody's business. They're terms of endearment, bitch. You just got to deal with it. So that's really where I got the inspiration. I was very uneasy at first with what kind of voice I was going to use. But the first gone that I saw, I knew that she had made something for me. Because Rachel has seen.
I heard your voice while I'm typing. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna type Ducky.
It was perfect. It was like every time I've ever been outside of a con, like slightly inebriated, being like ultra sassy with everything around me. And so I just doubled down. I just went full, New Orleans queer super yacht person. And that's kind of where I went with Lysander. I also would like to state, like, for the record, that I want to again thank Rachel, because I burned out of Vampire the Masquerade for a couple years, like said I would never play it again. And then when I read the script to Port Saga, I was like, oh my God, I miss this game so much.
Not for nothing, but you are my mother-in-law's favorite character.
Oh, yes. My mother sent me a text and said, I really like Lysander Valentine. He's my favorite character. And and understand that my mom gets uncomfortable with F-bombs. Like, there's so many fucks in this. I'm like, yeah, it's vampires, blood, and fucks. Get over it. But, but I said, Lysander is your favorite? And she said, yes, he is a man of conviction. And so she appreciated that Lysander was a man of conviction.
I also like, sorry.
I was going to compliment you. Your line readings when you're describing the process of smoking, over and all, every day, right to my face, it was so good. I was hanging on every word you guys, like the way you like held each line just long enough to like just almost like shove that fire in Titus's face. It's so good.
Yeah, when we were doing the recording, I have a smaller vape pen, and I put it between my fingers like a cigarette, like when I used to smoke. And the entire time we're recording, my hand is moving back and forth like this, like I was doing the full motion. One thing I really liked, and again, if you have a good speaker system, you should listen to Port Saga on that speaker system. I love the little things like the flick of the bic, the like at one point I'm like, what is it? And I knew the crackling of plastic as you're unwrapping the cigarette pack and you're packing it. I was like, holy shit, Rachel went full throttle on this. Like it was, and like I haven't smoked in years, but it was such a familiar noise that like I almost like when I'm looking at it, like listening to it, I'm almost like wanting to pack an invisible pack of cigarettes. Like, chef's kiss.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that scene in episode 2 where they are in a bar and I'm hearing footsteps in the bar, Titus in the bar, a TV going on in the bar. glasses going on, and then my brain is like, how many layers are in this one track? And I
Would you like to know how many tracks are in an episode?
Yes.
Yes.
86.
Wow.
So my the one I just turned in for 6 was 60. So and that one was actually episode 2 was 87. So the first episode was 86, the second episode was 87. Episode 6 is going to be 60, which which sounds like, well, what's wrong with that one? And you're like, you'll see, you'll understand.
Yeah, it's just surreal because
I can see why. I know why. Yeah.
Because like with all that layering, I could see in my vision what that place looks like, and it's amazing. Like I have not heard that kind of sound design like ever, like in a podcast. So credit to you about that. I guess.
Oh no, the production level for season 1 podcast is absurdly amazing. Like you can go back and like listen to like the first season of Welcome to Night Vale, and like their production isn't, I don't think, as good as this is. Like I listen to a lot of podcasts, and like the sound quality in Port Saga makes me think that, you know, some super wealthy producer like made this, but like please be Rachel's Patreon because she's she's not a super wealthy producer.
That was a really good feeling about listening to every episode with those sound layers. You know, they always say sound is so heavily tied to emotion, and with all the sounds that you hear every time you listen, you really get the feeling that you are in Port Saga. You're not just listening to a story. You're not just listening to actors. You're there. You are with Titus. You are with Ezra. You're with Dante, with Lysandra, with Zelda. You're with everybody, and you are a part of the story. I think that gives it even more depth, because as the listener, you're feeling all of these experiences, especially with all the little sounds, like the crinkle of plastic, which sounds we take for granted in our everyday lives, but you don't realize that makes it real. And that just keeps adding to how awesome this project has been.
Yeah.
I also want to give props to Brandon, who is our mixer and master. I found him actually through Travis, who produces The White Vault. I don't know if you've heard of The White Vault or Vast or Dark Dice, but he is the sound designer on those shows, and Brandon Strader is his mixer. And I actually, because this was my first audio drama, I tweeted at Travis, and I don't know this guy. I just sort of was like, hey, I'm doing this thing. I don't know what I'm doing. Can I buy an hour of your time, something? And it was a really enlightening conversation, but that is how we found Brandon. And so Brandon takes everything that I sent him, all of the tracks. I sent him a compressed file. In fact, I got one just back a few minutes ago. And he does all of the leveling. So he will take the sound design and he tries to make sure that everybody's levels are correct, and like those little sound effects really kind of shine and come through. So I do not want to talk about sound design and the sound without at least having a shout out to Brandon.
Woo!
So there you go.
Nice.
Ezra, I think it is Ryan, your turn.
Oh yes. Yes. So the interesting part about Ezra is that Rachel just was very upfront about this is the hardest character to cast because there's a lot of things going on. With Ezra, it's as lots of things are talking to him at once, so he kind of has to be able to pierce all that. The original inspiration that we kind of went for was looking at Neander Wallace from Blade Runner. And then after we recorded it, she said, so it sounded a little too off. Let's try this direction. So we tried, so I kind of thought a little bit more like Malkavian Elder, but also I didn't read the script ahead of time because I wanted to be surprised. So I was just trusting myself with Rachel's direction. What ended up happening was it kind of required having Dan and I kind of like be in the same room, and that helped a lot. And so it was just me talking normally with some and trying to not be as excitable as Ryan is. Like I get like whenever I get excited, I speak really fast. And she said, "Well, you need to slow down. Remember, you're not the. Remember, he doesn't really get angry. He's not the person like with any. He's not the person. He's not the disadvantaged person here. It's like he has the power. Don't speak fast. So I had to train myself to do that. But there's also this. But when I read a lot of this, there was also a sense of I try not to read like an obvious way, like these sentences. And part of it is because sometimes when you're trying to speak to someone and you're distracted, the way you approach a sentence isn't so much. So I'll like read a question. So like, what clan or piece of darkness lore have you not had a chance to portray at? So the way I would kind of portray it is like, what clan or piece of lore would you not have a chance to portray at? So it doesn't really come across as a normal read. I kind of look at a different way to read that sentence because there's always a level of there's a distraction always whenever he's talking to someone. And I also had to make him more compassionate than I thought because again, I'm not looking at any of the script. And so it turns out that he's actually maybe one of the most compassionate vampires, especially with someone like Titus, because he's looking at Titus and understanding that he's the same clan, and like all Malkavians, we're in pain in some way, especially we both lost Lawrence. So instead of being, angry at Titus, it's more like I understand and we'll get through this. And even if he's angry, it's like, why would I be jealous? We both love someone. He loved you more. And then that's kind of how he approaches things. And it's such a really interesting raid. And a lot of it is Rachel's direction. And being guided through it. And I love like playing this character. And I love playing off Dan because like we just tried different things. And it was kind of like there was definitely like a love for Titus that he had, especially they were in the same clan. And so, but it was the most challenging character, not in a bad way, because I had to go outside of several of my comfort levels to play this character, and I'm very grateful for it.
So, I have a question.
Sure.
Based upon the episodes that are released thus far, what are some of your favorite lines that either came from your character or that you've heard? I've made some people listen to this, and I will tell you this, Dane, the moment that you say, I resist the urge to hurt this person, it's like everyone laughs at that. Everyone just like, because at that point they're like, yeah, he's being a little mouthy. And like every time I hear you say that, because again, I listen to each episode at least 3 times. It makes me laugh so much.
Well, I will say that Zelda has one of my favorite lines. I will not spoil it. You'll know it when you hear it in episode 6.
I think I know which line you mean. It's also mine, and I had to like go. Wait, have I said that on the show? I haven't yet, so I can't say it tonight. I think I know which one.
It'll be there Thursday. It'll be there Thursday. Everybody will get to hear.
Tune in Thursday.
Yes.
Okay, let me see. So we already heard from Dan, Riley, and Ducky like favorite lines. Andrew, do you have a favorite line?
When Titus is bargaining and offering boons to, stay in Port Saga.
Oh,
that exchange, like, even after everything that's happened and all that tension has come up, we get the release, and now we're getting more tension. Like, you're not expecting it, and that exchange just all together, I felt that because I that spoke to me personally in some of the situations where I've had to offer like, okay, I can do this for you, I can do this, like, and you have to escalate. that whole exchange to me really struck a chord.
For me, it was when Titus was reminiscing about Lawrence and just all the sensations that he was feeling, and especially when he walked into his room and it was all covered over with the piano and just the my heart just dropped. Like, man. And just like you feel the combination of hurt and anger knowing that Lord's like, he erased it? Like, he erased me. Oh my god. It was just wow, like my heart sank.
So so my favorite sad line is Titus's line where he says, "This is the argument that cut my timeline in two."
Yes.
Between before
Oh.
this and after, which was such a choice line of Rachel's. My funniest line that I love is Janika, who is not here. And it's the Splash House line,
Yes.
which will also have a reoccurring theme throughout the series. But no, when he is negotiating with the ghoul on where he's going to wait to receive the courier.
Yeah, that
and-
whole scene was great.
Oh, that was wonderful.
No, Janika's hysterical. No, Splash House.
I loved. I mentioned Lysander's whole cigarette thing, which I thought was amazing. But I also love the whole like description of how to eat a true vegan and like where to find them and like the restaurant, and then like the whole line about like it has bad lighting, so there's not Instagram people that are coming to just take pictures of their food. Like every bit of that was such a. And I love the idea of a vampire discussing the person they're going to eat with the same level of intensity as those vegans would discuss the vegan food they were going to eat. Like it was vegan chef's kiss. It was so good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Some of my favorite writing was when Rachel would write just various insights into vampire society that in my brain just kind of went, oh my god, that I never thought about vampires that way. So, like, just the perceptions that Titus had about the differences between the high clans and the low clans, about like the predator and prey. I'm like, oh my god, that is so deep in that lore that just like it blows my mind. Some of those insights, it's like it's incredible.
Can I tell you my favorite line?
Yes.
My daddy pays a hooker in dimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of favorite lines,
That's so
but I
good.
kind of like that one.
Um,
I've used it. I used it. I mean, that is actually like legit my mnemonic device. I would be like, my daddy pays a hooker in dimes. Let's see. My daddy. Okay. You know, masquerade, domain, accounting. Yeah.
I now, by the way, say I'm gonna need you to lean in on here. Like,
Yeah.
when some of my the people I work with are not like understanding what I'm saying, I'm like, I'm gonna need you to lean in here. All right, like, oh,
My goodness. So I guess question for Andrew, only because like I know we were complimenting others' lines. Is there any particular line that you like that you can talk about for Dante?
For Dante, the exchange during when Titus and Dante are putting together the puzzle, which is the heavy bulk of their exchange, but a lot of it does at times feel like matter of fact, but at the same time, it definitely felt that whole almost father son, but not really father son, like mentor and student almost in a sort of shepherding way. Especially seeing how the interaction when Titus lands the piece and you hear a little bit of more emotion from Dante, like, well, the well done for me. That actually was a hard line for me to really get out, because well done, it seems so ridiculously simple, but because it's so short, and you have just one moment to really like nail that. But the layering there for me personally, that spoke to me, and that's amazingly enough one of my favorite parts for Dante. And how about you, Ryan?
There are a few, but like the one that kind of like the ones that stand out are like just Ezra just talking about these are the things that you have missed. But because it doesn't, because normally I could just go, well, like the janitor perished, Lourdes was on Fury and Rampage. That's how Ryan would talk, but just more. Everything is slower. I also like you owe me. Just the like there was a combination.
That's when the vampire comes out. He's all like, I'm compassionate and loving. Oh wait, I need you to do a thing. I'm still a vampire.
Yeah, like everything is beautiful, and then you owe me, and then that's, yeah, like I love delivering that line. There were several lines that I love delivering, and some of them will come in, and they haven't been launched yet. So like we could.
No, I know.
Right. Like we're all tight-lipped right now.
We're like, oh,
and like it's hard. Yeah, I did love.
We'll do another one of these at the end, though, or
There
like,
you go.
Yeah.
like we'll
I
have
agree.
another.
Yes,
We'll have a whole
yes.
AMA
yes
at the end.
Yes, like I would love to do this again and bring on more people. Like, and yeah, like that would be great. I'm gonna.
Because as soon as you start to hear, y'all, Sean. Sean is gonna blow your mind. I can't even talk about it. You're gonna hear it, but we got to get Sean in here. Kalina is amazing. Kalina plays Prince Hale.
Oh God, yes, I would love her here. Like for the next one.
Yeah, we just. I mean, there's just like a lot of great people involved, and I didn't know if we had. Do we have any questions from chat or anything else that we want to?
We do. So we have one from Hedgie Cleric. What is the recording process like with the cast members all over the world? We heard a little bit from Riley, but I'd like to hear more about the overall process. So, go ahead.
Well, everybody's recording essentially from their location. There are a few people that were located in Houston that would come to this room and record on this mic. But yeah, otherwise we would use an online interface and do the best we could. I do think that if you listen closely, you can kind of tell that people might be in different spots, and I hope you will all forgive me for that. But when I finally have the budget to send people the mic kits, then we will all sound the same. But until then, we use what we got. We do. I do have to tell the story of Ken Pickering. Ken Pickering, who I adore. He plays Craven. We got set up for his recording session, which is like, I'm on one end, he's in Boston. He's on a headset. And I was like, Ken, I told you no headset. He's like, but it's a really fancy headset. I'm like, it still sounds like you're talking through an intercom. No, right? Mm-hmm. So we were trying to figure out how to do this, and he ended up having his laptop laying on a couch, and we put a blanket over him. So he's holding the blanket. He's like, all you see in this little video. And I told him I was going to blackmail him with this video. And he said, everybody see me look like an idiot. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And so he's doing his lines like a child in a blanket fort with a flashlight and a laptop. And it was hysterical. I love it. It was a good time.
Yeah. Another question from Hedgie Cleric. What were your inspirations for the various characters in Port Saga?
So this is one of them. There's lots of different things. There's a lot of different things, and every actor kind of got a background, and a background that you may never even hear about or ever know about, but it is, it's there. The thing that I wanted to do though is because we know this was a self-produced project, which means the budget was yeah.
Be Rachel's patron.
be a patron.
The budget was be a patron.
Yeah. So the cheapest actor I have is the one that lives in my house. So and I was very concerned because we have a white male lead. Right? Like, who wants to hear another story about a white dude who has feelings? And, I mean, that's just where we're at, right?
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I wanted to do was, first of all, put him at the bottom of the food chain so that he is the most powerless character in the story. But also, I surrounded him with a bunch of powerful women and diverse characters. So I ramped up the diversity, particularly because it's vampire. And and especially if you've LARPed, if you've ever been in a vampire LARP, it's a bunch of dudes being like, I'm a dude, doing dude things. And so
So
I
much
wanted to make sure.
sausage.
Yeah. I wanted to make it like super feminist and super queer and super all of these things, because so understand, like, when there is a femme character, that character's got power, power, strength, influence, and is going to use it to bludgeon poor Titus over the head over and over and over again. But so it's not like getting into the inspiration for each character. We don't have time, but we can have coffee sometime. I'll spend the afternoon talking about it. But overall, it was, I wanted to show different people, particularly uh, marginalized folks in powerful positions, still doing bad things, still doing good things, still getting fucked over, like to have these stories. And yeah, so that was an important aspect. And the other slightly important aspect too for me was to take people who were professional actors, like you have professionals, but I also wanted to take larpers and gamers and people who were hobbyists and throw them all together to just sort of have this nice, I don't know, melting pot of talent come together.
Mhm. Um, I want to ask the group, uh, because all of us do have backgrounds, I guess, what is one thing you could share about your character's background that isn't a spoiler, but just kind of like an interesting trivial piece about them that you can share?
Oh, Ducky, do you even remember yours?
I don't know if I do remember it because the moment you said it, this is the moment that
I'm looking at
the
Dougie and
moment
I'm
I
like, I
doubt
want to know
everything.
now.
Would you like to know where Lysander Valentine was embraced?
Sure.
In the bathroom of a bus.
What?
That's right. That's
Ha!
fucking right.
Oh, we are gonna need that story. We are gonna need that. We are gonna need that side story. I'm sorry.
Whoa! Oh,
Lysander is super classy.
wow.
Yep. Yeah.
The
Mm-mm.
$2 chuck of embraces. All right. What about Titus? Like Titus is like we're seeing everything from the point of view of Titus. Is there something within Titus that we wouldn't know about but isn't a spoiler? It's like a very weird question.
Yeah, so there's a very small sliver that I can talk about that isn't a spoiler.
Mhm.
And it's sort of from when he is 18 to like early 30s. And essentially he goes to college, goes to Port Saga University, has a music major, doesn't last very long, ends up drinking a lot, ends up dropping out, and becomes a music teacher, like does side gigs and does that for like a decade, where essentially he drinks and pays his bills, and it's just one of those guys who's just sort of schlepping through life without much of a plan. And it's not until things reach a bit of a breaking point that he finally decides, okay, I need to go to AA, and he goes to the Sunrise Rec Center, and that is where he meets Lawrence, and that is what begins their relationship.
Mm. Let's see, Andrew.
So this actually, I need to ask Rachel a question about Dante really quick, because I actually got asked this when episode 3 dropped. Is Dante Filipino? Did we ever
Uh,
was that ever decided?
Yeah, well, he originally had a different name.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and so we ended up, but yes, so we did. We ended up changing his name, and we ended up going with a Filipino name,
Mhm.
and yes.
It okay. So from the backstory, I kind of inadvertently did this, but if you hear the lines that I give as Dante, there's almost sort of a forced perfection about it, which
Mm.
goes ties into the idea of a Tremere having to have everything perfect. But you can kind of hear certain imperfections in in my voice that just ever so slightly slip, and it kind of feels like the whole idea. If Dante is a Filipino, he's going to want the perfect voice. So this kind of came to me as it was going through. He would have done all the work to make his voice as powerful sounding as he possibly could, but there would be moments where Dante would just ever so slightly, you'd hear him speak imperfectly, and that to me, that's I guess the small little hint for me personally, and for how I played Dante. That's again, nothing spoilerish because there's a lot more that's coming up, but that's where I would go with it.
Riley, anything interesting about Zelda they can talk about?
Honestly, I didn't get a ton of background on Zelda. I know when she was born and when she was embraced, and I know a lot about what she was doing within the clan and the city. And I'm afraid to say too much of that because I think like I don't want to tip the hat of fun things that are coming with that. So I was given a pretty like I don't want to say blank slate, but I was given a lot of room to run around in. Like Rachel basically like put me on one of those like kid leashes and let me run around the yard and kind of find Zelda with my voice and things like that. So, I have thoughts about what I brought to the table when I was playing the character, but they're all headcanon things. And since Rachel created the character and, hopefully we'll write more of her in future seasons of the show, I don't want to say too much about what I think's going on with Zelda because I want to see what Rachel has in store for the character in her writing. Um, so yeah, there's not a whole lot. I to go back to what Rachel said about these are all minority characters or marginalized performers, but still playing characters that can be like good or bad or like full. I was really excited um, as a trans woman to get to play a character like this because I think a lot of times when you have trans characters in horror, it's this trans panic thing that's happening where it's like you get like movies like Dress to Kill and I think that's what it was called, that Brian De Palma one. And you get like Psycho, and you get a lot of Ed Gein playoffs, or even like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff like that, and Sleepaway Camp, which like is like a traumatic memory for me of like how horrific that was for people when I was younger, and like whenever it comes up in my life, I'm like I just hate the way it gets treated. And so to have this character who she's not written necessarily as trans because Rachel didn't know who she was going to cast when she wrote the character. But me playing her, it was really fun to be able to play this character who is, like the closest character I can think of in pop culture to compare her to is like Miss Scarlet in the Clue movie. Like she's the person who knows a little bit about everybody and is like ready to use it whenever she can. And that kind of character was super fun to get to play. And it's so fun because Nosferatu are so they're made hideous by their vampiric curse, and so that's why she wears the veils, and that's why she's such an obfuscator and stuff like that. But there's like a couple of moments where there's a lot of sex dripping in a lot of my lines. Like I am very flirtatious and I am very playful, and I think there is something to that. And I think I'm walking on thin ice here, and so as a person who culturally is not considered the beauty standard, but doesn't want to think of myself as ugly per se, just because I don't fit into a cis heteronormative like point of view of like what beauty is. I think there's something really interesting about this character who knows that she has been made hideous by her curse, but doesn't let that make her go like, well, I'm a nightmare, so I'm just gonna hide away. Like she does she has what she has to do to uphold the masquerade and also to keep the upper hand and stuff on people, but she doesn't seem like someone who ever lets it be a barrier to her power and to her ability to manipulate and control people and things like that. And I really respect that about her as a character. And so whether or not we find out ever if Zelda is canonically, like if she was trans before she was embraced, or if that's just a deep voice that she has, whatever, I still feel a lot of kinship with her, kindredship. I feel a lot of kinship with her as someone who has had that history and that background myself. Because I've done modeling, and I've done that kind of stuff, and I've acted in TV shows and movies, and it's really hard as a trans actor who is not at all cis passable, because I've sat in auditions next to people like Trace Lysette or like Jamie Clayton, who's the new Pinhead, and I'm like, why am I even here if this is who you're calling in for these parts? So I don't know. I'm rambling now, but it has been very fun to play a type of character that I don't think that I would normally get called in for, and I think when I got the first emails from Rachel explaining who Zelda was and like what her role is in the city, I get excited. I get so giddy and excited. I'm like, I can't believe I'm actually like coming off of Cruella de Vil this summer. I'm like, that's the kind of role I want to play more of, is those kinds of things. And so, yeah, I can't say much about what's on paper, but I can tell you what's in Riley's head.
Well, I will say Zelda is very comfortable with who she is. Like Zelda knows who Zelda is and is like 110% I am me, and I'm going to do me in every situation. And that's why I just love that character.
I felt like that was a lot of what you had on the page, and so I really tried to bring that into the character and performed as her. And this is a bit of an aside. I interviewed Wilson Cruz last year about his role on Star Trek, and we were talking about representation and about him being, Puerto Rican and being gay, but playing a character in the future who is a Puerto Rican gay doctor who doesn't matter at all. And he was saying how freeing it was as a performer to be able to imagine a version of his life where it had never affected him, and like homophobia and racism had never played a factor in his entire life. And that has stuck with me a lot since that interview. And so I think when reading the lines for Zelda, it was very empowering to play a character who could just completely own herself and who she was, and own her city in some ways. And it was really fun. So I've talked a lot, so I will let somebody else talk for a bit. But that's a lot of work.
Please don't make me cry in front of people.
Like my heart just feels like 3 times as big right now, just like listening to you talk. And it's like,
and Ryan, to your credit, like you're the reason why I got involved in this show, because when Rachel was looking for actors, you pulled me into this fold. So this is you did this. You're the reason you're crying right now. You made it happen.
You did it to yourself.
I know.
Why are you hitting yourself, Ryan? Why are you hitting yourself?
I know.
So
I mean, like it just.
So what you're saying, Riley, is later on when I'm blowing my nose into the 20th tissue, it's Ryan's fault.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's
Okay.
usually pretty true, to be fair.
Listen,
Okay.
like in casting, like whether it's my show or any project, all I do is I just present options. So when Rachel came to me, like I feel glad that Rachel felt comfortable enough to me to say, hey, I'm looking for more diverse performers, and a lot of them. Like, awesome, let me go ahead and like try to find other people for you. And then when you came to me regarding Zelda, I just kind of went, okay, would you be open to a trans woman like doing a voice for you? And you said sure, and it's like, and I just sent you like Riley's information, and then within like less than an hour you go, she sounds great, I want her. I'm like, great. That's all we have to do in casting. Like I know that people think about casting as you are the barrier between the rest of the public and the director, and I think there are so many ways where you can use casting to just allow your project, whatever it is, to just become more in tune with the world, more rich. Like there are just so many ways to do that. And Rachel, thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you guys for being awesome, by the way. Like, I know you're like, oh, the writing. I'm like, well, it wouldn't exist if it wasn't being performed. And so, yeah, no, you guys, like, it is a real treat to get to sit down at editing. So, I go through everybody's takes. I pull out all the things that I like. I call it Frankensteining audio. Like, I'll take a take, part of a take here, part of a take here, and kind of put this together to make this long string of what I believe the character is. But like, and then I hear it again, and I don't know, it's really exciting because you guys really just bring these characters to life and in your own creative and unique ways.
Unlive.
And unlive. And I just, and I appreciate everybody's creativity and the things that they bring to it, and the choices that they make that I didn't foresee. There are times when y'all do a line reading that I was like, I wasn't thinking that, but I like it. So yeah, and that actually, I mean, that happens with Riley. She has there is a, I know which line you love, and this is not to like, I don't want to I know which one.
There's a few, but yeah.
But when you hear this scene, you're gonna be like, oh, it just switched to that one because because I did a thing, and I think you're gonna love it.
Oh, I'm excited to hear this. I can't wait.
My goodness.
I want to go back real quick to the topic of the recording process, because I think as an actor, it was really interesting to do that online, like with you as a director there with us, as if we were in the booth, because I've done a lot of VO where I just open up an Audacity file and I record a bunch and I send it off. And I'm so grateful that we didn't do that I mean, some people did, but I'm grateful that I didn't do that with you for this project, because like we said earlier, you gave me a note at the very beginning of my recording that completely changed how I performed everything. So I really do think that our voices, speaking for myself at least, and I think the others probably would agree with me, I think it was a conversation between you as the writer and the director and producer and us as the performer of, you gave a little bit of your thoughts on the character. We kind of had our take on the character, but it's how the two came together that I think really is what makes the show,
Well,
sing.
yeah, no, I completely agree. And this is the thing. Now, understand, I have a bit of a directing background because I did video production way back in the day. I used to make educational videos and commercials. And so I had a little bit of experience directing and directing talent. But I had zero experience as far as audio dramas, and zero experience as far as trying to work with people on, this very kind of niche thing that we're doing. And I learned, and will be taking forward, that absolutely I'm working with everybody. Like, I had some people did record their own stuff, and I'm like, the things that came out of working together ended up so much more interesting. I don't know, like, I want to use the word tense, but which is not quite right. But it's the idea of having some tension in there because of those two things working together. I don't know. It made good stuff.
It felt like there was a lot
I
more
certainly-
energy,
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Energy. Like there was so. And to find that place, and I know exactly what you're talking about with Ryan. Ryan, I'd be like, with ease, Ryan.
Yes.
Ease.
Yeah. I think part of me was also just so excited. I'm like, I get to do this role. Wait, ease.
Yes.
Got it, ease. All right. Before I forget, I guess the random thing about Ezra, one of the reasons why I'm dressed this way is because I had to imagine what would Ezra actually wear to a Primogen meeting. And the thing about Ezra is that he was embraced in the 1960s in Berkeley. And he took a lot of drugs. So that affects everything that Ezra does. So in a strange, and you see Berkeley is my alma mater. So I'm like, I'm very, very familiar with Berkeley and what happened during the civil rights movement during that time. In fact, Rachel and I talked a little bit about how that might or might not influence the way I portrayed Ezra. So I thought that part was just kind of interesting. But Oh, what was I going to say? I may have forgotten. No, but the thing that I liked about Ezra is that because he's been under like a combination of so many drugs, he is queer, like he is gay, and wanted to move to Berkeley where he would be more accepted, and then just landed in a place like he was always gay to begin with, and was struggling with that. Of not being accepted and trying to find a place of acceptance, and it just happened to be a lot of drugs and vampirism, and that kind of forms Ezra.
Yes. Oh,
Like
gosh.
you do.
Like you do.
Like you do, yeah.
I've talked to those guys outside of Comic-Con. They say that vampirism leads to the devil. So I think, being into nerdy stuff makes you become a vampire and worship the devil, right? So, and be
The-
gay.
I mean, that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the first vampire LARP I have ever played was in Berkeley. So I actually met a lot of those old time LARPers. So so a lot of those people, I'm like, I'm familiar with those people, or I'm familiar with Ezra because I've LARPed with those people. Let me see. So like we're getting towards the end of this, and I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of like wrap this up. I'm gonna say.
I know a few people asked about a second season, and
Yeah,
I think
let's-
this-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Good
so-
question.
If you can
More.
talk
A
about,
few people, some people demanded.
yeah. So
Everybody.
is there
Everybody.
Oh, and yeah.
any clues to whether you're going to produce a second season, and maybe potential takes that you or perspectives that you might do differently for the second season?
So, yeah, because I think one of the questions was I going to stick with Titus or do an anthology? I will. So, a couple of things. So, as soon as I started writing one, I already know what 2 is about. 2, so 1 is going to go right into 2. So, I assure everybody when you get to the end, there is a reason it ends the way that it does.
Mm-hmm.
Now, getting it produced, become a patron.
Yes.
Become a patron.
Become a patron.
Yes, because I am doing this out of my pocket. And so the only barrier at this point to getting a second season made is popularity. So it's money and resources. But right now the entire intention is to make a second season. I already know what it's about. We are going to stick with Titus, but I did want to say I really am kind of loving this idea of doing mini arcs on the different characters. And it came from Seasons of Valentine, because Ducky, I don't know if you remember, was feeling himself one night, like he do, and
It was a day that ends with Y.
Yes, he was feeling himself, and he was like, I don't know, you wanted to take pictures, or you like, I don't even know what it was, but I said to him, I was like, well, we can make a calendar of you. We'll call it Seasons of Valentine. And
I mean, everyone on my Facebook approves.
yeah,
But I am
it's
just
a
essentially
fundraiser.
I am a thirst trap for the people.
So, but that gave me the idea of, well, wouldn't it be interesting if we did do these like the more anthology kind of, like, here's a glimpse of Ezra, here's a glimpse of Dante, here's a glimpse of Zelda, and so that's the other idea.
You can't handle a glimpse of Zelda, darling.
Oh, that's true. That shit's real.
Like, I know that there was this joke that we had like on Facebook about if there was an OnlyFans for Port Saga, and it'd be oops all Alexander Valentine.
Oops, all Lysander.
Oops.
Wait, what's Satine's character's name? It'd be all her. So it'd be all blank pages.
Constance. Oh, but
It's a bunch of empty theater seats and popcorn strewn about, and
I love it.
Oh.
I love it. But seriously, if you become a patron of Rachel, I will take scantily clad photos of myself dressed up as, well, with just the blazer. I will wear only the blazer, and I'll put a microphone between my legs. If you become a patron, I will legit take a photo shoot
We'll owe
professionally
you
done
boons,
of
and
me
that's how
just
people
in the
will call them their
blazer.
boons.
Oh
I
my
feel like,
God.
Ducky, what you're really saying is you're going to do that anyway, but if you become a patron, you'll share it with people.
Actually, Riley, you are 100% correct. That is what I mean.
I think he's already taken the shoot. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
he already has.
Like
it.
he's already
Yeah,
done
I will
it.
Ready to
definitely do it
release.
last Saturday. And
Oh my God.
It did happen. I told Joe at some point the cat would jump up.
Kitty.
Oh, hey,
Kitty.
baby.
Hello. Oh my goodness. So as we were talking, I kind of just flashed Rachel's Patreon if you want to see that. And also Hedgie Cleric, thank you for putting the link. If you want to support Rachel in this endeavor of getting a season 2, but also supporting in helping her with the late nights of I know how much editing you do for audio to make it sound like the way it does, please consider supporting her because of the many Patreons that I do look at. Hers is among the cheapest to support. It's like, really? You're only paying that much a month? You might as well do it and share it.
Yep.
So
I'm a cheap hoe. Is that like that?
listen, our goal is to make you the expensive hoe, okay?
Yeah.
Let's
We want to make you a very popular cheap hoe. We want a lot of
Yes,
people
yes.
to
Right, we
sure.
want a popular cheapo.
bargain basement hoe prices at bulk rates.
Yeah.
listen.
Riley.
It's cost for value,
Yeah.
folks. Cost for the
That's
value.
true.
We want
Put
to
it that
reveal a Costco pallet out of Rachel. Make someone get the thing and get the thing down with a machine. We're doing all that.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So obviously, we have to do this again with more people. So we're probably going to do like a part 2, like once the whole season is up, because then we could finally talk about all the things without saying spoilers.
Oh yeah.
Like
We
we're
will
going to
have- we will
actually
have
do
a
it.
huge AMA. Yes, we will have a huge AMA.
AMA.
Yes.
So let's take this time to kind of go around the table. Where can people find you on the internet and plug your shit? Plug the things that you are doing so that we can go and follow you. I'm going to start off with our marvelous director and producer, Rachel. Where can people find you?
People can find me at racheljwilkinson.com. Everything is there. Start there. And you can find Patreon too, because I put a big button that says support on Patreon. So
All right. Again, putting this up on the screen. Absorb it. Absorb it
yes,
into your
and
system.
it also has Life Mancy too. So like if you like witchy, supernatural, occult, like where the occult and life meet in a nonfiction kind of talk showy thing, that's gonna be available for you too.
All right, Dan, where can people find you on the internet, and what things are you up to next?
You can find me at Dan Geist, real nice and easy. In 2022, I have a pretty busy year. In February, I'm going to be at Main Street Theater doing a piece called Mother of the Maid. Over the summer, I'll be doing Sound of Music. And then in October of 2022, I am writing, producing, and directing a piece called Seven Assassins Walk into a Bar. I'm very excited about it.
That sounds awesome.
Nice. All right, Andrew, where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to next?
All right, so you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Andrew J. Alandy. Those are my main accounts. I have side accounts as well for other various projects like my fighting game stuff, Twitter at Duralath, and then my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Duralath. I usually stream every Friday, Saturday, and Monday. It's a variety of games that I usually rotate them through. I'm actually taking a break though this week because I had a couple projects coming up, couple of events that I'll be hosting. I believe I'm hosting a costume event in Little Tokyo this weekend, Little Tokyo, Los Angeles, California. I'm also one of the new members of the Agents of Nyx. That is a campaign going on the Creators Assemble channel, streamed tabletop RPG game. So that's twitch.tv/Creators Assemble. I believe our next episode is November 12th. That's on the schedule. Again, subject to change on that. I've been doing a lot of TTRPG stuff as well. So super excited about that. And then I believe I'll just be at the next a few upcoming SoCal anime conventions as well. As to the nature of what I'll be doing, yet to be determined. But above all, the main goal for me is just to make sure I'm spreading positivity in this world and making sure that people understand their value. So that's where you'll find me.
All right. Riley, where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to next?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Riley J. Silverman or on Instagram at Riley Silverman. I do a lot of TTRPG stuff as well. I'm currently DMing a show on Saving Throw Show called Dice Ex Machina. It is a Theros-based D&D campaign. We have 3 episodes left in our second season. We're having a lot of fun doing that. I'm kind of leading my players through sort of a Trials of Heroes kind of campaign, like Trials of Hercules type thing. They're trying to find some weapons to defeat some ancient monsters. I currently play as the Doctor on a Doctor Who RPG podcast called The Game of Rassilon, and we are nearing the end of our 3rd season. We have a very special Doctor Who Day special coming up in November, which will be very exciting. On Thursday, I'm going to be on this podcast called Port Saga, where I play this character named Zelda. So that's pretty
It's
cool.
amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
I am not sure I've heard of that, but I am definitely.
Well, there's a
tuning into Port
Patreon
Saga.
you should check out if you do listen to it.
Yes.
Yes.
And then I'm also
They
I'm
involve
really
calendars.
Thank you. I'm excited this Friday. So I'm in an improv group called Ripley Improv, and we did 2 major productions on Twitch for the pandemic. We did a show that we're currently in a season of called Heartbeats, which is an improvised medical drama. And then in the spring, we did a show called Slay, which is an improvised Monster Hunter series. And on Friday, we're doing a crossover of both of those 2 shows. So we're doing our improvised medical drama where the characters from Slay are going to show up at the hospital that are improvised. So imagine if Grey's Anatomy crossed over with Buffy all of a sudden, and it was just fine. It's just what happened. So that's what we're doing on Friday, sorry. And I'm very, very excited about it. I'm playing one of the doctors, so I'm playing my Heartbeats character, but we have 3 of our Slay cast members showing up at LA General Hospital. And so I'm really, really excited to see how it goes. I have no idea. It's gonna be chaos. So even if you never watched Heartbeats before, it's a great episode to check it out with. So that is this Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time on twitch.tv/Ripley Improv. And that should be it for me. That should be good.
All right. Ducky, where can people find you on the internet, and what are you up to next?
Well, if you're really looking for the internet device that I use the most, you're going to find me on Instagram, where I either drop really good poetry or thirst trap photos. So if those are the 2 things that you like, you want to look for Duckminster_quick on Instagram. Also in December, I'm going to be reactivating my Patreon, which is Smoke and Stars, which is my adventures in science fiction writing and poetry. Currently, my friend Lauren Belaze and I are working on the script for an audio drama, which Rachel had mentioned before, which is now called Chronicle Ouroboros, which is an audio drama taking place in the remains of New Orleans 137 years after a mystical apocalypse. Outside of that, I'm also on this show called Port Saga. You should listen to it. It's really good. It's a thing, But coming next year, I am working with Ken Pickering, who's also on the show, and his coworker Garrett for Reverie Studios, doing undeterminate things for a Vampire the Masquerade event called Saturnalia. Non-disclosure agreements and all. So I'm going to leave it there. Also coming January, I will be once again reprising my role as the shirtless, bloodied, horned god Karanunos for Armistice Arcane's last run. I don't know if you've noticed, people pay me to not wear a shirt. That's a thing that happens. So if that is a thing that you're into, hit me up. I'm your guy.
All right. And I am your host, Ryan Omega. You can find me here on this channel, Life Action Roleplay. On Thursday, we have Purgatory Cafe, where we have a lot of people in a cafe having to deal with angels, devils, and their antics, and the fact that something strange has just happened with potentially like a comet and maybe a Leviathan, and trying to deal with the aftermath and trying to survive that. Next Tuesday, we have Boardroom Fate Court, where someone has figured out that her magical heritage might be a leprechaun. We don't know what's going to happen to that, and the Fae are trying to become famous in order to not die from the lack of mortality as a result of things that happen in the world. Also coming up is Breaking Bard Hamlet with director Kevin Allen, and we have just had a talk today. So we're still looking for people to cast for this project. So Breaking Bard is where we take people to perform a few scenes from the original Shakespeare, but then we also have those same actors do a modern adaptation. So we just realized that Kevin said, I kind of wanted to do Hamlet meets Schitt's Creek. And I'm like, yes, please do that. So we're still looking for performers who can do that. By the way, our David is going to be Hamlet, or Hamlet's going to be David Rose. That's kind of like the idea that we're going to have behind that. So we're still looking for performers. We're still casting that. If you're interested, please let us know, because casting is not at all finalized yet. So that is happening. So again, thank you for joining us here on A Conversation with Port Saga. I like to kind of like raid someone else to share the love. And I think as kind of appropriate as for being within the hashtag Vampire the Masquerade hashtag family, I think I'm going to raid my friend Vince Casso, who plays Gregory Demetrios over in LA by Night, and he's a good friend of mine. And I think we should come up with a call sign, probably something dealing with vampires, maybe. I don't know. What's our rating call? What's a good? I mean, we could just do a straight out like, Port Saga, and then I think we should
Family.
just like Port Saga, Port Saga family. There we go.
Port Saga family.
What's Saga family?
Port Saga family. So I'm
My
dad
pays
pays hooker and dime.
Okay,
Yeah, no, that one.
That's gonna
We're
be.
going there.
Yeah, we're doing
Okay,
that one.
we're just gonna have to do my daddy pays a hooker and dimes. All right. So
We all get banned for hate rating somehow.
listen. Like, if I'm gonna raid, I'm gonna message Viz like, "Hey, it's me. Just letting you know that my daddy pays a hooker and dimes." All right. So we're raiding now, and again, everyone, take care and support Rachel by going to her Patreon. Bye, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for being awesome actors, and thank you for coming and listening to us talk today.
Y'all later.
All right, and we have